All right, welcome to the Metta Performance Podcast. We explore how compassion, high achievement, and human connection come together in work, sport, and life. Today, we're going to do one of our first couple episodes. We're going to hang with a couple members of the team at Metta, which is cool because they're both coaches. But I'm more excited to talk about the coaching relationship, and then also, the stuff about how everyone can do better. But I'm really interested in the relationship. So, how are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Doing good.
Right. So we have Mike Seiler. So if people want to hear about Michael Seiler, you have to go listen to episode 1 and hear all
Right.
about him. So basically, Michael, I'm going to tell you right at the beginning of this, we just don't care about you, but we care about Kate because we haven't heard from Coach Kate, who's one of our coaches here at Metta. So can you give us kind of your bio-ish on where you're at? And, specifically, I'm a little interested in, how last summer went down.
Yes. So my name is Kate Seiler. I am Michael Seiler's daughter. I grew up in Louisville with them, of course. Started racing cyclocross when I was about 9 years old. Had a lot of fun with that, but then slowly started switching to road and track racing. I've raced at an elite level from, I guess the age of 17 to I'm 23 now, and just finished I don't want to say last season, but I just raced in Belgium for a third season in a row. This past summer was racing for a Belgian women's cycling team, racing at the highest level that I've ever been at, and now I am taking a break and I am working a lot. I just finished university last year. I went to Colorado Mesa University for the past 5 years, and now I'm still living in Grand Junction, just working and trying to ride my bike when I can.
We know you've been in Europe now. I've been to university.
Yes,
Yes.
I picked up on that.
Yeah, I've been to university. You know, my kids just went to college, but
Right.
Michael, yours
school.
went to university.
University.
Yeah. So on the other podcast, I don't know if we're going to do this consistently, but I like to do a speed round of questions, and normally it's super easy questions, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit this time. So, Michael, if Kate's given a weekend away to do anything she wants, is she going to take a posh weekend away or go rough it in the woods?
She'll go rough it in the woods in a heartbeat.
Is that a true story, Kate? That's the thing.
Yes. If you knew my
Okay.
sister, you would know that we're complete opposites, and she's posh, I'm roughing it.
Okay.
Yep.
And what about your dad then? Going the other way?
Oh, I think he's a mixture.
No. This is an and or. You can't have a mixture in this question. We're either sending him with like a tent to the woods.
No, I'm
or a
saying he would
conference
probably he'd be glamping probably.
Oh, okay.
He'd be out
That's
in
fair.
the woods, but he would enjoy a nice cabin, whereas me, I sleep in my car.
Okay. I will say I'm with you a little, Michael. Let people know I take the trailer now. And the first
Yep.
first weekend I ever raced where I slept off the ground, stayed dry when it rained, and then on Sunday morning, the day after the race, got in and was dry and got in the truck and left. I was like, I may never be in a tent again. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might, especially as we get not as young as Kate.
Yes.
So,
Well,
Kate,
yeah.
what do you think it's going to be? We'll talk about your dad's, but what do you think your dad's best athletic achievement was?
Oh. I think it's more on the running or triathlon side. I mean, I feel like maybe it's just because it's something cool I like to talk about, but how many Ironmans he did. I think that was always, that might have just been a small flex for me to people. But in my eyes, that was like such a crazy thing.
So the only thing I'll say about that is, Michael and I talked when we used to ride in Louisville, and running was really dumb. Michael told me running was dumb, and he was never
was
going to
dumb.
run, let alone the whole swim thing. And
Yeah.
then there's a gap in time in which we were in touch, but I see him online doing this stuff, and I wasn't 100% sure if I should send him a note and be like, "So, dummy, how's it going?"
Going on.
So it was cool to see. So that's good.
Yeah.
Last one. Michael, is Kate a crunchy or creamy peanut butter person?
Ooh.
I think he's crunchy.
I do like crunchy more. For some reason, I don't buy crunchy peanut butter, but Yes, I would
We
agree.
always had creamy in the house, but
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
I agree.
thankfully, Mark and I are blessed with two young women who eat well and like good food, and so flavor and Kate's a very good cook. So I would say crunchy would kind of satisfy that, like a little something special.
Some
So
text.
I'll leave you with in my day job, I ask this question a lot around at different conferences, and it's almost 2/3 creamy, 1/3 crunchy,
Oh,
except for an event I did in Colorado. And take
oh,
what you want. It was like 80% crunchy. Just take away from that what you want.
trying to be
So,
special, maybe.
Yeah. So let's be serious. So let's start with, because I mean, we talk about performance and we're talking about Kate having been over. And for those who don't know, we'll get into it a little bit. Michael was coaching Kate. So what does performance mean to you? I'm going to start with you, Kate. What does performance mean to you? And how do you know you're performing at a high level? And then we'll see if your dad agrees or disagrees.
Yeah, this one was hard for me to like put into words, I feel like. I feel like it's something you see and you feel, but I don't know. I wrote down 3 words though that came to my mind, which was progress, milestones, and consistency. Because I feel like with high performance, I think the reason why it's so hard to put into words is because it can be really blurry and different for a lot of people. So I feel like those 3 words are kind of like how you can track it, I guess, and keep an eye on your performance. So progress and milestones would be like having goals and making sure that you're seeing that progress. And you know that like the platforms we use like Training Peaks and Strava, those help so much to see that. And I feel like you can see that you're performing at a higher level because of that progress and those milestones that you're achieving. And then also just the consistency. Like I feel like if you're being consistent, there's no way you're not performing, if that makes sense. Like you're day in and day out, you're putting effort into something, and that's always gonna do you better than just hopping in one day, hopping out another.
It's funny. I might plagiarize, steal, borrow that from you, but I might reorder them. That I think about consistency being king a lot. But so I really
Mhm,
like what you did, and I might again steal it to be consistency brings progress, brings milestones.
mhm.
Um, thing just changing that's actually pretty awesome. So uh, sorry, I'm just gonna steal it.
That's okay.
You think, Mike? I mean, does that align, Michael?
oh, yeah, I feel like I should pay her for that answer because, I do think consistency, especially with working with clients, um, you know, probably half of my clients have come to me and they're starting something. And so the first thing we really work on is that consistency. I want to build that habit. Um, and we'll start to see the progress. And you can use the tools we use, but you also get people in tune with the feeling of, I'm
Mhm,
a runner now.
Hmm.
And um, the thing I like that if you notice, milestone, most people focus on the outcome. I'm going to run my race, or I'm going to get a certain result. And really those first two things of consistency, developing, making progress, is going
mhm,
to get you to those milestones. But so many people focus on the milestone first, where I would
mhm,
focus on, let's get consistent, fill up every day, do your best. The only thing I would change, and I think my opinion about my performance has changed, is that I think you almost have to play a long and a short game to this of looking not only at long-term performance, but
mhm,
even realizing you're going to have bad days. And so if you can just be the best you can be a day, it may not
mhm.
be your highest performance, but that performance does run on a continuum.
Yeah, the only thing I might add is having two levels of performance. And so you've got the external benchmark and, for lack of a better term, your internal benchmark. And so,
Mhm.
um, for Kate, it's like, to your point, can I be the best I can be? And that's kind of, goal A. Goal B, though, sometimes for some people is,
Mhm,
can I place? Where do I want to be in this crit? Did I kind of do what I needed to do? And of course, there's more variables there, who shows up where and type of day and
mhm,
everything else. I think there are those there. And I think those get inverted sometimes with people because there are you just can't control who shows up that day. Like
Mhm.
there's something that can show up, and those, those four freaks of nature just showed up. And so like, that changes where you might end up that day. I think
Yeah.
those are awesome answers. The whole reason I wanted to do this is I coached my daughter through basketball forever, and I think it was the greatest thing ever and some of the hardest parts ever. And I thought, how cool is it to now take a look at the same thing, but in a different sport, and
Mhm.
actually one that is probably more one-on-one, and see how that dynamic went. So I don't know who wants to start, but maybe the stories are different. How did the coaching relationship start? Kate, how do you think the coaching relationship started? Evidently, you
Um,
were 7, so I'm going to say he sneakily 7 or 9. He sneakily was coaching you before you thought you were.
oh yeah. I mean, I learned everything I know from him for the most, well, I won't say everything, but like he's the one that did get me into the sport. So there's always the little hidden nuggets of knowledge you don't realize came from someone. I don't really, I mean, I was young, so I don't really remember exactly how, but I will credit my mom. My mom taught me how to ride my bike,
That's
and
true.
that took a long time. I was not quick on learning how to ride a bike, but I was quick jumping from the riding the bike to the racing. And from there, we had a really good like junior crew in Louisville, and we would all go to kind of the same practices. And honestly, we were all kind of doing the same thing. So I feel like I had a couple coaches at that point. Like my dad was helping me out with getting me to those and like bringing me to races and whatnot. And I'd say coaching during races, but we also on my junior team, we had a couple people that were helping out and bringing people around. So there were a bunch of people early on that were kind of guiding me. But then as I started, it was mostly when I switched to road, I'd say that my dad kind of came into the actual like coaching role. Um, yeah, I don't know why. I think just it just fell into place. Like you just started I didn't know anything, so
When
had
was it formal
somewhere.
then? When Michael, did it become like instead of like because there was for me it was you're teaching them how to do things when they're little and play a sport and do thing, and then there was a
Mhm.
point of coaching. When did that kind of become I'm giving you all this stuff every week?
Mhm.
Uh, Kate's spot on, because in the early days of cyclocross, we did have such a great junior team. We had first red zone
Mhm.
was a really big, well junior development team, and when I started taking Kate to those practices, I was the dad. I was a typical helicopter dad. I wanted to be the one that was teaching the group that my daughter was in. And John Haley, one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was, um, "Hey, go coach somebody else's kid. Like we'll have somebody work with your daughter's group."
Yeah.
And that was a great piece of advice, just to let her do her thing. Um, Cyclocross is a great sport for that because it's kids being kids and playing on bikes, and it's not the time really to be serious. It's to have fun, learn some skills. Um, but once she got serious and started to race road, is really where I think I picked up and said, "Hey, we could make this more formal and start giving you workouts." I was giving her workouts that she begrudgingly did, sometimes fighting me on um, for cyclocross. But it was really once she got on the road that it became a more formal coaching relationship.
So now that it's formal, let's go and kind of go we'll go to the negative part first, because obviously we know the story. Like, what are some of the challenges, Kate, that you saw maybe with some others when you're being coached by your parental unit?
Yeah. I feel like when I was younger, when I was a teenager, of course, probably. I feel like that was maybe when we had, I don't want to say problems, but I think sometimes there was a struggle of like the dynamic of dad, but also coach at the same time, but also as a teenager. So that's just already a tough time.
Don't say
Um,
so. A teenage girl that there were issues. I'm not buying the story.
yeah. So that was kind of just like, I was like struggling to, I think, stay committed to it sometimes. So it was just also annoying to like then have that person that's giving me this stuff that I don't always want to do also be my dad. So I feel like that was tough. Sometimes it was hard because not that I didn't ever not trust what my dad was saying, but you see what other people are doing in these big coaching and like these big names, and you're like, well, like, they're doing all these things. Is this something that I need to be going out and looking for other stuff and whatnot? But to me, it always like the thought of enjoying my coaching in the sport always overrode that. So it was like a fleeting thought of like just like wondering if I am doing enough and if we are doing enough. But I feel like that was never really like, it was mostly when I was younger. I feel like we had problems, and then through college, we stopped coaching for about a year, maybe. I think once.
In
It was it, yeah, it was a couple of years.
Was it? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
high school or college?
No,
High school.
it was when she was a teenager, and
Oh,
there was that's one of the challenges of coaching your kid is managing those roles of
hmm
child, athlete,
yeah.
parent, coach, and it just was getting too blurry, and I think neither of us was having much fun.
Yeah.
And she had gone to the USA Cycling used to run these talent ID camps, and there's one run from just down the mountain from us. And she went to it a couple of times, and she said, "Hey, uh, the guy that runs it, Rusty Miller, he's got spots." And I was like, "That's a great idea."
Yeah.
So she worked with Rusty.
I guess, yeah,
It
it
was
was
a
a
couple of
couple years.
years.
Yeah, I think so
And
too.
Rusty's an amazing coach, super guy,
hmm
just good human. And so I think it was good for her to see a different perspective, and he coaches differently than I do. Um, and so it was it was just a good opportunity for both of us. And I could just be dad, get her to the races, support
hmm
her as a parent, and you know, not have all
Well,
the
that was one of my big questions, was that because coaching, like I said, coaching my daughter for multiple sports, but all of them were, practice starts when you get out of the car, practice ends when you get back in the car. But in an individual sport where you're talking about stuff in cycling, like I can see
hmm
the line being a lot more blurred, you know, type of
Yeah.
thing. I mean, we obviously face the same, like, you're an idiot for doing this thing, Dad. Because, all teenage girls know everything. So what could we possibly know? So that is really interesting. So then when you jumped back in, so now when did you jump back in? Was that in high school then?
It
Still in
was
high
still
school?
high school. Yeah, I'd say I switched coaching like either end of middle school or like my freshman year of college, and then or of high school, and then kind of I think it was my junior year of high school that I broke my elbow, and
Okay.
getting back into
Yeah,
training.
yeah.
Yeah, it was my junior year. Getting back into training was very hard because that was my first like major injury with a surgery and having to get back into training. And I got like, I remember one day, I was like hopping on the trainer to do intervals, and I'm like in a full sling like cast thing, and I just started freaking out, like having a panic attack basically. And I remember calling my dad, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like this, I just feel terrible. I can't push anything. And was like, I feel like that was maybe one of the like only like panic attacks I've ever had. And I think he just came home and was like, okay, like it doesn't matter. You don't have to do this. And so it's nothing with the coach or anything. Like he was giving me what he thought I was prepared for, but I think it was just too much at once. And so I took a step back from riding for a little bit. And then once I was ready to get back riding, my dad just picked up on it again.
And then rode all the way through college, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And still coaching. Did you coach over the summer? I actually don't know the answer
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
So, okay.
Yeah.
And so let's flip it around a little, I guess, Michael. The challenge is, she's still on here, by the way. So just out of
Yeah.
let you know. Yeah,
Just a
we're not,
heads up.
Punch him out.
yeah,
Be nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, like, coaching journey. I mean, both our kids played soccer, pickup soccer, bunch of sports, and because I grew up playing soccer, I coached. So I coached my kids early, but similar, it was very relaxed. It was learning how to play soccer. But I think some of the challenges are managing that role of parent versus coach. Um, Kate and I spent a lot of time together driving races, weekends, and in some levels that's an upside because I could see how she responded to stress, how she responded and learned, and so there were things like don't go talk to Kate immediately after a race, regardless of how she did. She needs some space. So I just I go do something else, let her do her thing, and when she comes back to the car, the tent, or wherever, then I know it's okay to start talking.
Yeah.
So there is that upside of familiarity of not only seeing your kid as an athlete, but being in the house, tone, what works, what doesn't work, which is just as important. And I think it also, because we really started, she started racing bikes at 9, and as kids develop, they change. They were, how they feel about racing bikes, how they feel about their sport changes, what's important to them changes, and I think cycling in particular and racing at the level Kate has been racing at can be very isolating for a kid because there's a high level of commitment. Now, that's true of any sport that somebody's committed to. And so you do you cut yourself off from social things. You're not hanging out with your friends as much because you got to go to a trainer to get your workout in. And that's really hard when a kid's growing up. And so it was, how do you manage that? And, I think we got to a point where I could tell, the best thing right now is for you to not do that workout. It's
Yeah.
to go be with your friends. Or,
Yeah.
even today, even, when she was in college, I knew there were times where you just need to go for a hike, like skip the ride, just go be in the woods. You need to be in the woods. So that's some of the challenges you have is just knowing the roles, knowing when to push, when to let off, when to be down.
Yeah.
Especially you have a bad result, you lose a game. That's the time to be down.
Yeah.
So that's not the time.
Yeah, perfect. I used to tell people I never coach on the way home. They're like, "What?"
No.
We put on music and whatever. I actually wasn't at the game, which is a little weird. You're like, "No, you were at the game." I know I was yelling at you during the game, but but we're not at the game. Everyone needs to
Yep.
chill, and I think it's great. You're saying first you have to be dad. I think, and I think the
Yeah.
hard part is actually when to be coach. I would probably reverse that, Michael, from like you're always dad. But when do you put the hammer down as a coach? Because sometimes it's hard to make them do something they kind of don't want to do, but you'd made another athlete go do.
Yep. True.
So those are all the challenges. So what are some of the highlights? I'll start. Get you a big head here, Kate. I'll start with you, Michael. What are some of the highlights? Your proudest moments. Working with Kate.
The one that immediately comes to mind, I don't know if you may be able to see in the background. So that's one of Kate's national championship jerseys. I noticed she didn't mention that she's a 6-time collegiate national champion. But I was preparing for a question like this, and so I was thinking of okay, what would be the one thing? I think the thing as a dad and a coach that was the most exciting was seeing when your kid slash athlete, starts to put things together and learns things. But why I think that national championship Jersey is so special to me um, is right before she won her first national championship, she was playing on the bike in her backyard and shattered her ankle. I mean, in many pieces. Um, and she's got the screws and the plates in her ankle to prove it. And it was what, in the spring
It was 2
for
days after my birthday. It was April 12th.
yeah,
Shout out for birthday. So shout out, still plenty of time to go buy Kate a birthday
Yep.
gift.
Don't
yeah.
forget.
But I mean, we had this big year planned of racing. I mean, this was going to be, I think, one of the biggest years
Mm-hmm.
for racing because she wanted it. She had set these goals of like, I haven't been to, you know, Athens. I know we had been to Athens probably, but I think like Toad was. We had like the
Yeah.
whole summer was
Yeah.
just going to be crisscrossing the country, and all of a sudden you're presented with this problem. Uh-oh, there goes the season. So, um, I basically it's like, all right, well, let's get you taken care of, and then we're going to build a plan, and we're just going to work the plan. And it sucked at times, and I was crying, and I mean, we started with her just sitting in a chair doing weights. Was all she could do, and the thing that made me the most proud and the highlight was that she put the work in. She just trusted the process. She put the work in, did everything she needed to do to set herself up. And once we realized the season was gone, we were like, track nationals is what we're shooting for. And
Mm-hmm.
just getting there was the
Mm-hmm.
goal. And, we got her in shape and everything. And she far surpassed that. So I think it's, to me, that jersey represents, what you want an athlete to do is to buy into the process, put in the work, and you know, toe the line and give it your best shot. And that's what happened. And she walked away with her first national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Did you bring Kleenex, Kate? For that? Yeah,
I should have one. That was a birthday gift, Christmas gift,
Christmas gift, yeah.
and we should have brought some tissues to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dad got a little weepy.
Dad
Yeah.
got a little weepy.
Let me just ask the flip side, like,
Mhm.
however you want, Kate, whether it's what you've seen him or how you've seen him adapt. What's been kind of the proudest moment, other than his Kleenex needing at that.
I mean, of course, you see. I feel like I've seen him grow, like just getting new athletes and like hitting accomplishments. Like I think of when you were working with Lanier. I feel like Lanier had some really good years near the end where you worked with him a lot. And so that's always fun to see you get to work with so many athletes and like more higher level athletes too. But also, I feel like maybe selfishly, my favorite thing about you coaching is like getting to tell other people that my dad coaches me. Because it's always fun to be in like Europe or something, and they're like, "Well, who's your coach?" I'm like, "My dad." I always love that. It just feels it's very comforting and like I don't know, just my small little flex.
Have you said and you can't have him? You
Yeah,
can't
he's
use him?
mine. No, but I
He's
should.
mine.
That's funny.
So I guess real quick, Michael, for just for you, kind of the pros and cons, I guess, if you would, of coaching your kid. I know you're talking. There's some good and bad. Like real quick, couple items on each for people to kind of be leery of, or the bonuses of why you should.
Yeah, the pros. So the pros, I think one, being able to see your kid excel at something, and excel to me does not mean winning. It just they find something they're passionate about, and to be able to. I mean, obviously, as a cyclist myself, it's amazing, and we always wanted our kids to play sports. I
Mm-hmm.
have my preferences of the sports they played, but so I'm excited that I've got Kate who's a cyclist, I've got Anna who's a runner, and so to see them grow, to find something that they really enjoy doing, and then to see them get good at it, and to make that commitment. I think that's a pro. Yeah, I think seeing them succeed, um, and this is more on the athletic side because there's a con to this, but on the athletic side, I mean, I judge my my value as a coach is seeing my athletes achieve the goals that they've set out for themselves. And so, Kate, set some really lofty goals, and it was just amazing to be part of that and to see her do it, on her own terms and come back from, you know, she's had 2 surgeries, she's had multiple crashes, and she
Mhm.
always comes back and makes the best of it. The con of that is that a lot of parents get into this coaching relationship and want to live through their kids.
Yeah.
And that gets really, really dangerous, just because, that leads to the kid not enjoying what they're doing. It leads the kid to doing things not because, it's their goal. They're doing it because they're worried about what mom or dad are going to say, living up to mom or dad standards. And so that's something that, as a parent who's thinking about entering a coaching relationship with their child, is like, be really clear, on, who's into this sport. And Peyton, we've had multiple conversations throughout
Yeah.
this where we've said, listen, if this isn't fun,
Yeah.
let's stop. I mean,
Yeah.
this should be fun. This is a sport. This should be fun. I mean, it's hard work, but the
Mhm.
minute you hate doing it, like
Mhm.
we'll find something else to do.
Yeah. No, the
You know,
pressure did not come from him. I mean, I'd say the
right?
like motivation, the like pressure to work hard was, but the pressure of doing the sport, I feel like was more from me than anything, which is good. Yeah.
I personally think, I mean, kind of phrasing it different, Michael, I think, your job, whether you're a parent or coach, is, almost the threat of taking it away. Not in a, you were a bad person thing, but if you're not having fun, you're going to take it, you're going to take it away. And,
Mhm.
there's fun and, it's type 1 and type 2 fun. And I think there's
Sure.
sometimes you understand that. I think the other thing listening to you, Michael, that's really cool is, believing in their goals, and setting their goals because I think, your goals either living through them might be too high or they might be too low. And I won't lie, I caught myself out. My daughter got in the car when we were in 8th grade and said, "We're going to win a state championship at this school," which was awful at basketball. And I almost was like, no way. And then fast forward 4 years later and you're like, holy crap, like that's what she made happen. And you're like,
Yeah.
but the flip side is you do see, people who want to live vicariously through their child and like
Yeah.
it's either not fun or they're just not capable. Like to me, success going back is like, did you get the most out of them? Were you able to get the most out of those athletes? Basically, they reached, terminal velocity is what I use a lot of times.
Yeah.
Did they reach terminal velocity? Like that's it. That's the best we could do with what you have. So I think
Yeah.
those are great. Those are great. Those are great things.
Yeah.
Um, what like from a workout standpoint, I'm kind of curious too. So what frequency do you give workouts and have you found the dynamic of feedback do you think different than other people, Kate? Like you get your workouts, is your feedback with your coach different than others you think or fairly similar?
I I think it's probably a little different. Like obviously like we talk like more than most coach athletes probably do, but usually it's just about junk and not really the training. I feel like you this was I wrote down some of my advantages to my dad
Yeah.
coaching me. I took notes. So, one of them, which I just want to throw in because it kind of goes with the highlights, but I feel like having my dad as my coach, and once I think even more so once you started Meta, I feel like I raced with a lot more honor because I felt like in my head this is good. So don't view this like you were putting pressure on me, but I feel like it was almost like a badge of honor. Like I wanted to do good because I want people to like see Meta as like the coaching works, if that makes sense. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that get high praise for coaching, and sometimes they don't always deserve it. So it always made me want to work hard and like race well because of that. But also, I feel like with the coaching relationship, my advantages that I wrote down were like the honesty and openness. Like I was saying that we talk about a lot of junk, but I feel like it was just like my day-to-day stuff, which I think he can take a lot more from that than me talking to him about my workouts. So he knew like the context of maybe why a workout wasn't super good without me even telling him. I could have just said school's hard, and he's like, okay, yeah, I can see it. Or I'm tired, or maybe I went out last night, who knows.
No, no
I
one
know.
will. Don't worry.
I know.
No one will know.
No one will know. But I feel like that was a nice, like, it never felt like I had to work really hard for him to understand what was going on and for him to be able to adjust what we were doing, just because he knows me more than anyone else, any other coach would be able to. And that was why I always feel like I would get the question of why. Like, I never went to a different coach, and I always said because if I was with anyone else, I'd probably be burnt out. And I think it's because I do, like, for my training, I'm a very, like, I just want to have fun. And whenever training, like, obviously I do the hard work, but if something's really not enjoying for me, I will not do it. So I feel like he understood that, and he had a good mix of stuff for me that was like a really good balance with my lifestyle and the other things that I like to do.
No, I think that's awesome. I think, it's a huge advantage, but it can be a disadvantage knowing everything. Because, of course,
Yeah.
when you're home, you can't skip, you can't hide, you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So there's that pressure too. But I think a lot of us strive in that coaching relationship to understand the
Mhm.
bigger picture, so that you can, to your point, like, I know when finals are, I know when stuff is
Mhm.
happening, I know when there's other stresses. And so when your numbers look weird,
Yeah.
you're not sitting there trying to run the math. You're like, actually, this makes 100% sense. Let's
Yeah.
dial it back here because life is going to ride, going to be the main thing. Training shotgun. That's a really good point, Kate,
Mhm.
around that understanding between coach and athlete. I
Yeah.
also think, you call it junk, but that relationship building,
Yeah.
well, I think that relationship building, you build up that relationship, which you can't help it when you
Yeah.
have, parental unit and child. And so you can have a real heart to heart discussion, and not walk away from the building. You just had a
Yeah.
hard discussion
Well,
about training
I hope
because you
he
have
wouldn't.
junk
I
discussion.
hope he wouldn't leave. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
I did also, oh, I'll
No,
go.
go ahead.
I wrote down another thing about balance and how having you as my coach, you like don't just care about me as the athlete and like the numbers and the performance of it. Like if I'm stressed out, you're like, okay, we're backing it off because I know that I want you to also have a happy life and do good in school and get, a good job and whatnot. So I feel like that was always nice for me because it's how I also viewed the sport, which I probably got from you. So it was yeah, I feel like it worked out well.
Yeah. Yeah. What I was going to say is that, I think, John, to your point, I mean, those junk conversations, mm, I can hear her voice. I can, now with FaceTime and everything, I can see her face.
Hmm.
And I can sometimes learn more in those conversations than any notes or data I see in training peaks.
Hmm.
And so sometimes it's like, well, what did you talk about? Oh, we talked about music. We talked about what's going on at school. Like didn't talk about training. No, didn't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that I would probably put that in the advantage of that parent-child coaching relationship is you do see them, talk to them more often, gives you more opportunities to build,
Hmm.
not only build trust, but just know how they're responding. You don't always get that with, my other athletes. I've got some that I have to pull teeth to get any information out of, and I've got others that check in regularly. So
Hmm.
there's I'll take any type of communication because it's going to tell me something.
Um, so with all that in mind, what advice, I'll start with you, Michael, because I want to see then if Kate thinks it's good advice. What advice would you give, other parents, who are thinking about entering a coaching relationship?
Now we didn't do this, and I think somewhat is dependent upon the age of your child, of like when you're starting. Because starting at 9, I wasn't really her coach. I did help, and I did some during the race, but I was mostly getting her to races. It wasn't
Mhm.
until later, so we didn't really need to have this conversation of like, okay, I'm the coach, you're the athlete. Here's how this is going to work. We just kind of started and off we went. So I think having that conversation with your child, if they're at an age that it makes sense to them what they're agreeing to. Um, but I think that would be good. I think also just be a parent first. I mean, that is your number one obligation, is to be a parent. Um, and know when to say maybe this is or isn't the right setting, which we
Mhm.
did, and we realized it was just there was too much tension in the relationship, and so the best answer was let's find another
Mhm.
coach for a little while and um, go that direction. So I think just keeping an open mind about the relationship, but your number one job is to be a parent. Your second job is to help them coach, and um, I had the advantage of growing up racing bikes, so you do see a lot of coaches. If you're all going to choose to coach your kid and it's not a sport you know a lot about, educate yourself, talk to other coaches, go get certified in that sport so you can really give them the right kind of coaching.
That was going to be
Mhm.
my point, Michael, was it hadn't been said through here, but I mean, I'll go way back. We won't talk how old Kate was, maybe when I met you. Um, but you've been doing this a long time as a respected person and knowing their stuff. And so, you know, you're capable. And I think that's where some parents, you start coaching, and that's great because they're younger, enough about the sport to get going and still make it fun. But there is almost every year you almost have to look back. And we've talked about this at Meta, weirdly enough. Like there's a certain type of athletes I like getting started in jumping distance. And then there's another place where they might want to go really chase the pointy end. And that may or may not be me. And so you have
Right.
that discussion with you as a parental unit, like based on where they're going, is this the right space for me? Am I going to be the best as a parent? Am I the best coach? And that's hard to do. So I think that's a super point, Michael. And also, am I capable? Because like, hey, I can share
Yeah.
the passion and go, I can go get certified and learn some stuff as we go. So I am being the best coach I can be.
Yeah, and that's true. I think that your statement about coaching is true regardless of the relationship, is that not every coach is good for every athlete and not every athlete is good for every coach. And so, you know, there are times I've had athletes leave me and I think like, I've gotten you as far as I can get you.
Yeah.
This is a good move for you.
That's personality. I mean, same thing. I think those junk conversations, do you have good junk conversations, a good rapport? So I know you know, she's stressed, you're talking to her on the phone. It's the same thing with
Mhm.
athletes. So I think that's, that is, as a parent first, I think that's great advice, Michael. Are you stepping back and being like, let's evaluate your coaches? Tough to fire yourself, but that
Yeah.
might be the thing you have to do, which I thought was super cool when you said, I have to fire myself as a parent right now and send you somewhere else for a couple
Yeah.
of years. That's, it probably sounds great now, but I'm sure at the time was you know, more difficult than it sounds now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe she was just a real pain teenager and you were like, actually, this would be great. So were you a good kid, Kate?
What'd you say?
Were you a good kid? Were you a good kid?
I was a good kid. I was
Okay.
just sassy and moody and, you know, the
Well,
usual.
so what would you, Kate, what would your advice be to parents who have or are thinking about having their, or sorry, to other athletes who are thinking about having their parents coach them?
Well, my first one that I wrote down is kind of where you all left off, but just enjoy it and realize that you both are learning, like especially if you're starting earlier on, or like as a newer athlete, that I feel like you're both learning as you go. So it's kind of you just have to keep that in mind. And then this one sounds, the way I wrote it sounds, I said, don't be afraid to hurt their feelings, which don't hurt their feelings. But I meant that you just like with the honesty part of like like a coaching relationship. Sometimes I feel like that can be hard when it's your parent or your child. You don't want to hurt their feelings by saying something, but sometimes it's what needs to be said. Like there were many times my dad was like, you just actually have to suck it up. You're kind of just making up excuses. Like, you know what? You're right. Or, and then on the flip side of that, what we talked about a little bit earlier, I think, but respecting boundaries, I feel like we never had a problem with that, but I do hear about it from time to time, not even with like parent child coaching relationships, but just coaching relationships in general. There's a lot of overstepping boundaries and going places that you shouldn't be going. So I feel like, pushing each other and knowing that you're still learning and, trying to build a good relationship without overstepping those boundaries and crossing too many rules, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll each go one more here. What anything else do you want to add? I think this is, well, let me ask before, would you do it again?
Yeah,
You're
well,
still
he's still doing it. So
Still,
except today I have to run
because you didn't want to have a 10-hour series of intervals on next weekend, like next
No, I would do it.
training groups and find a whole list of new stuff. Yeah.
Oh gosh. No. He's still coaching me now, but it does look a lot different.
yep.
Only an hour max a day at the moment.
Wow.
And not even every day, which is crazy for me. So this is a current transition in my life. But I think if I had to do it all over again, yeah, definitely.
What would you do? So, any other tips as you're thinking about it? Anything we missed from your perspective as we go through? And for those who are listening, obviously, it's not free flowing conversation completely because Kate keeps saying she wrote down her answers.
I
So
just like to have notes. I
no,
just get
so
nervous.
some people are like that. I don't even have like really I just have some bullet points. But that's
No,
getting to know you as a person. You like to be completely prepared.
Yes.
no, I'm
Yes.
good at yapping, but I just, I like to be prepared.
So, Kate, I have a question for you. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
now being a coach yourself,
Yes.
how is there anything you would try to think whether you would do differently? Like, I guess, what's your impression of being a coach and having athletes that you're responsible
yeah.
for and
Well,
having to work with them?
I've started coaching my sister, and man, I can just see what my dad dealt with. That's all I gotta say.
We're not going to edit that part out. I, for one, am just not going to. That's not going to happen. We're definitely 100%. That's a so.
I can just see because she changes her. Well, she's different. She likes to try a lot of new things, so that's been a challenge of helping her set her focus. And thankfully, my dad's helping her as well. But I can see myself in her a lot, and maybe I would be a little more rigid with myself as an athlete if I redid it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Anything, Michael? Any last words from you on like what you would either do different, or I know you mentioned, my biggest takeaway, people for reminder is, parent first and then
Yeah.
coach.
No, I think it can be a whole lot of fun. And, I think it's just being really aware. And you can even do things if you're going to have a conversation, is like even verbally tell your child, like, I'm going to talk to you as a coach,
Yeah.
or let's have a father-daughter conversation.
Yeah.
So that it's really clear, because that's the bit. I think that's really where a lot of them a lot of these relationships kind of get off the rails is just how you manage those different roles.
Yeah.
I tell you, I've gotten more joy out of it, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. It was hard work. We both learned a lot about ourselves, and I learned a lot about myself as a coach. But I think we learned a lot about each other as well. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't take those back. Some of the car rides I might have, but in general, I
Those are
wouldn't.
the best.
Best
We
in the
had a
world.
race. No, we had a get psyched playlist that we made every year, and
Curated a new
That
one.
direction's good. It's
Yeah.
depending how things went for the weekend. The direction home could be, because you're trying to put the boundaries in place, and then they want to pipe up, and of course,
she would just pass out.
I just fall asleep.
The number of photos I have of me driving and her asleep in the car it would fill an iPhone.
So funny.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
This has been great. And so for anyone listening, obviously just follow us on anything. It's on Work Defined Network. It's on your streaming platform of choice. You can find the Metta Podcast. I think one of the cool things that comes out of this is obviously we're all coaches, but everyone's got the work-life balance thing. That's kind of the meta, if you Google what meta means, that's, we all really believe that. And we're all easy to reach. And, if you didn't believe Kate's answers because her dad was on, you're welcome to reach out to Kate. Who's also an awesome
Get the
coach.
real tea.
Yeah, get the real tea. The real tea can get spilled. Super stoked you guys were able to do this. This is such a
Yeah,
cool
thanks, Sean.
Thank you. That was fun.